Good morning, beloveds. I'm running behind this morning, and it all started yesterday. I had an incredibly busy day yesterday, and then we went to do this amazing soul session, which I really want you to see, which is processing now, so hopefully it'll be up on YouTube and Facebook shortly. Facebook and Zoom wouldn't talk to each other. So I was like, well, they would, but they weren't going to let me stream it to where I needed to stream it to. And so we ended up recording it. And so I've been working on the video this morning because, it took too long to process. And by the time it was finished processing so that I could do it, I was out cold. So, all right. Now, we are on chapter 6. There is no way I'm going to get through this. This is probably going to take me about 3 mornings to get through. So we are on chapter 6. It is people's relationship to the spiritual universe. So I'm just going to read probably about 5 pages, and we'll find a place to stop. All right. And we are going to start with the first section, which is people reenact the nature of God. Whatever is true of the universe as a whole, must also be true of the individual as some part of this whole. People are evolved from the universe as a self-conscious thinking center of living spirit. And as such, they must, in their nature and being, reproduce the universe. If we realize that God is triune and that people are a spiritual likeness of God, we shall see that the whole scheme of life and the whole nature of the divine being is reenacted through people. This, of course, does not mean that a person is God. It means that in their small world of individual expression, their nature is identical with God's. This is what Jesus meant when he said, "As the Father hath life within himself, so hath he given the Son to have life within himself." This refers to the inherent life, real life. That is the only life God could have. We must expect to find in people, therefore, the same inherent attributes that we find in the universe from which they spring. A single drop of water is not the whole ocean, but it does contain within itself the same qualities and attributes, which, by the way, is a quote from Rumi. It's a paraphrase of Rumi. Rumi says that you are not a drop in the ocean, but you are the ocean in a drop. So, gotta love when Ernest is loosely quoting Rumi. All right. People are made out of and from life. As a fact, must partake of the nature of its cause, so people must partake of the divine nature from which they spring. We did not create our nature. We cannot change its inherent reality. We are what we are, and we use this nature for better or for worse. Being what we are, there are certain responsibilities that go with our nature, certain obligations. If our thought is creative, and if we have selectivity, that is, volition and choice, then, and if we are unfolding to a discovery of our true nature, which must already be perfect, then the obligation and responsibility of this nature would impose freedom or bondage upon us temporarily. But our bondage cannot be real from the standpoint of the absolute. So right in there, we get accused of a lot of things, thinking we're God. And he's going, no. We just have the same nature. We are not God. And then he also is starting early in with, you have obligations and responsibilities. Science of Mind, New Thought, is a teaching, a philosophy of responsibilities. You have a responsibility to manage your life, and this is the way you can do it. Okay, next section. The world has learned all it should through suffering. The science of mind and spirit makes a tremendous claim when it states that the individual should be free from the bondage of sickness, poverty, and unhappiness. It does, however, carefully set forth the conditions under which freedom operates and the laws governing life, stating in no uncertain terms that unless people understand these conditions and obey these laws, they will not receive the full benefits from its teachings. The world is beginning to realize that it has learned all it should through suffering and pain. Surely there can be no intelligence in the universe that wishes people to be sick, suffer pain, be unhappy, and end in oblivion. Surely, if God or the universal intelligence is imbued with goodness, then it could not ordain that people should ultimately be other than perfect expressions of life. We have shown that people's nature is the same as God's nature. We should have no intellectual difficulties in realizing that an infinite intelligence could not make an automatic individuality. And this explains why people suffer on their road to self-discovery. Their suffering is not God-ordained because they create their own experience as they become individualized. By individuality is meant self-choice, volition, conscious mind, personified spirit, complete freedom, and a power to back up that freedom. Emphasized Ernest. We cannot imagine a mechanical or unspontaneous individuality to be real and free. Individuality must be created in the image of perfection and let alone to make the great discovery for itself. I love the title of the section. Look, we've learned enough through suffering. We can do it another way. But to do that, we need to learn the rules. And that's what Ernest is setting out to teach us in the rules. All right, next section. Freedom or bondage. We, therefore, arrive at the conclusion that while bondage is an experience, there is a reality to which bondage is not real. To that reality, bondage is not even an illusion or a hallucination. There is a part of us that is never fooled. That is why, in the midst of the greatest trial, death, or any human suffering, something arises within and says with Job, "Though I die, yet shall I live." If you have not read the book of Job, it's an interesting read. I highly suggest you go read the book of Job in the Bible. It's in the Jewish Testament. Freedom of will means the ability to do, say, and think as one wishes, to express life as one personally desires. To be able merely to think and dream of freedom would not be liberty. A prisoner under a life sentence can do that. To imagine without the power to manifest such imagination would be to remain in a dream world which would never come to self-realization. This is not the world in which people live at all, for people's world is one of self-expression, even though this expression appears to limit them. We are in an infinite mind, and an infinite mind is also in us. It is by this mind that we think. This mind is eternal, therefore we are eternal. This mind is complete, therefore we are spiritually complete. Though we do not appear to be so, this does not alter the fact that the potential person is just as perfect as the inherent God. As Jesus said, "Fear not, little flock, it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." Well, if it is God's good pleasure to give us the kingdom, we should learn how to receive it and use it. A freedom under compulsion would amount to the worst kind of bondage. The Bible says, if there has been any law whereby this freedom should be compelled, then verily by the law would that freedom have been given. If there had been a way by which the divine creative principle could have compelled people to suddenly appear on the scene of experience full-orbed with all of their freedom and still be an individual, then verily by the law would this have been done. But even God could not do this. The only way God could evolve a spontaneous individual is to let them alone and let them to awaken their self. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. So, people must be created with the possibility of limitless freedom and let alone to discover themselves. On the road to self-discovery, they must be subject to the law of reality, and if in ignorance they violate this law, they must thereby suffer. This is not, however, because of any divine decree ordains suffering, but simply because it is the necessity of the case. God never intended people to suffer. Suffering may be salutary in that it leads us to a place where we learn that it is unnecessary. We shall cease to suffer as we more and more comply with the laws of the universe. All suffering is the result of the same infringement of these laws. It is the solace of the mind that we come to understand that all human limitation, from the standpoint of the divinity within us, is unnecessary. We recognize that we experience the pain, but how could there be an external reality to pain? If this were true, we would have a suffering universe, a suffering God, an agonizing deity, all of which seem untrue, unreal, and impossible. We must know definitely and consistently that the universe is for us and not against us. But someone will say the universe is not for us. Look at the evil, the limitation, lack, and physical pain and anguish of the human race. We shall have to learn that evil is neither a person, place, nor thing in and of itself, but is an experience which we are allowed to have because of our divine individuality, until through negative experiences we learn to use the law affirmatively, to cooperate with it, and thus enjoy its full benefits. For the true law is the law of liberty and not of bondage. The universe is foolproof. It does say that we can have what we can take, while at the same time we must expect to experience the logical result of our thought and act, be it good or what we call evil. The meaning of freedom implies the possibility of suffering, because if we are free only by virtue of the possibility of choosing more than one course of action as an experience. There is no freedom or happiness as a spontaneous individuality unless there can be temporary restrictions of bondage and unhappiness through the wrong use of freedom. All things are possible to the infinite, but the infinite forever remains true to its own nature and never contradicts itself. If people take their image of thought only from their previous experiences, then they continue in bondage which those previous experiences create. If we talk about discord, we shall become more discordant. The more the world arms for war, the more certain it is that there will be war. People who spend all their time talking about their unhappiness become more unhappy. Jesus understood these great laws of cause and effect in the universe, which work sometimes with apparent slowness, but always with sureness. Eventually, we shall understand that all human bondage is an invention of ignorance. Whew, that's a whole lot of words, but what he was ending with is principle is not bound by precedent. So that's why he says, if you talk about bad things, more bad things can happen. So let's turn our attention to what we actually want and stop chewing on what we don't want. All right, I'm going to give one more section and then I'm out. The last section I'm going to do is punishment and reward. And it's kind of a short one. Before we leave this subject of bondage and freedom, we wish to make clear that there is no sin but a mistake, and no punishment but an inevitable consequence. Wrongdoing must be punished, for the law of cause and effect must be eternally operative. Right acts are rewarded in the same manner. We do not say that people cannot sin. What we say is that they do sin or make mistakes, and they are thereby automatically punished as long as they continue to make mistakes. Emphasis earnest. But bondage is not real to the universe, and sin is not real to God. This does not mean that we can do whatever we wish with disregard for the consequences, nor does the fact that we are punished for our mistakes mean that there is an evil power in the universe. It does mean that there is an immutable law of cause and effect running through everything. We are not punished for our sins, but by them. I thought that was important enough to highlight. Sin is its own punishment and righteousness is its own reward. The age-long discussion of the problem of evil will never be answered until we realize that evil is not a thing of itself. It is simply a misuse of the law of freedom. The problem of evil will be met only to the degree that we cease doing evil and do good, for evil will disappear when we no longer indulge in it. When the whole world sees the right and does it, then, and not until then, will the problem of evil be resolved for the entire race. Right? A friend of mine likes to describe, Reverend Sherry likes to describe sin as self-inflicted nonsense. When we stop doing it, we'll stop being punished by it. Now, that is, I grant you, it is a bit simplistic, and there are people who seem to get away with it, but it's a law of cause and effect, and we don't see everything that's going on in their lives. So, all right, I'm going to wrap this up. So we are going to start on the bottom of page 111 with spirit, soul, and body tomorrow. Like I said, I think it's going to take me about 3 sections, 3 days to get through that. It's kind of long, which is good. All right. Just quick housekeeping. We are Creative Life Spiritual Center, Creative Life Spark. I'm the running Rev Ryan on the social medias that I am on. You want to know what's going on with the center, please email info@creativelife.org, or the website is creativelife.org. So that's how you get in touch with us and follow us and keep up with what we're up to. I'm going to encourage you to have a great day, a wondrous day, a fantastic day, a magical day, an enchanted day, a wonderful day, an awesome day, an amazing day. It was a restful day, a take it easy day, it's all going to work out day, a self-inflicted nonsense can go away day, a good day. And if that is too much pressure, simply have a day. You are enough just as you are. You are a beloved expression of the divine. You are spirit in motion, God in action, a brilliant light, a divine spark, or as Reverend Jesse likes to call us, you are a godly. All right, beloveds. Reverend David will be on around 5 p.m. with you. I'll be back with you around 9 a.m. tomorrow. Like I said, keep an eye out for that soul session. It's uploaded to Facebook. I'm just waiting for Facebook to post it because they have to process it. And I'm going to go hit the button to let it premiere on YouTube. So it's good. It's good. When we knew Reverend Ann was going to be good. So please go give her a lot of love. All right, beloveds. I will see you. Know that you are loved. I will see you next time.